On the 7th of May 2026, in a quiet press release from Hiroshima, the smallest mainstream automaker in the world ended 13 years of silence. Mazda unveiled the SkyActiv-Z engine, a 2.5-litre, four-cylinder, internal combustion engine that, according to Mazda's own published thermal efficiency figures, delivers fuel economy that matches diesel and acceleration that matches petrol in the same powertrain. Within 48 hours, every diesel engineer at every major manufacturer on Earth was reading the same Japanese technical documents, and every diesel-powered vehicle owner in Australia, whether they knew it yet or not, was holding an asset whose future had just been rewritten. Australia is the diesel ute capital of the developed world. Over 2.1 million diesel-powered light vehicles are currently registered on Australian roads. The Toyota Hilux, the Ford Ranger, the Mitsubishi Triton, the Isuzu D-Max, the Toyota LandCruiser, the Nissan Patrol. The vehicles that built modern Australia, almost all of them diesel. Diesel was supposed to win. In 2010, every major manufacturer was investing billions in diesel passenger vehicles. In 2015, European regulators began the slow strangulation of those investments. In 2020, every manufacturer began the awkward pivot to hybrid as a placeholder, while the electric transition stalled. And in May 2026, a company most people had quietly written off as too small to matter, produced the powertrain that makes both diesel and conventional petrol obsolete in a single product. 8 Australian vehicles, sitting in driveways across this country tonight, are about to feel that announcement in the only place it actually counts: their resale value. Masahisa Yamakawa, the chief engineer responsible for SkyActiv-Z, gave a technical interview to Mazda corporate channels on the launch day. Quote, SkyActiv-Z achieves a 42% peak brake thermal efficiency across a broad operating range, exceeding modern diesel passenger engines in real-world fuel economy, while delivering throttle response and refinement consistent with premium petrol applications. The engine renders the case for diesel passenger powertrains, in our analysis, structurally obsolete. In plain English, the chief engineer at the company that just released the engine has explicitly stated that diesel passenger powertrains are now structurally obsolete. That sentence, from that man, on that date, is the single most consequential statement made by any automotive engineer in the last decade. And it is the sentence the Australian used car market is now pricing into every diesel trade-in offer being made this week. 8 Australian vehicles, all currently on sale or recently sold, all diesel-powered, all now sitting at the centre of the largest powertrain devaluation event since the death of the rotary engine. Some of them are utes the country runs on. Some are luxury SUVs the country aspires to. Some are family vehicles the country trusted. Brand by brand, ranked by how badly the SkyActiv-Z announcement will hit their resale curve. Here is exactly what is happening. Vehicle 1, the Volkswagen Amarok V6 TDI, premium diesel ute, 6-cylinder, 3-litre turbocharged diesel engine, marketed across Australia between 2017 and 2025 as the premium tier European alternative to the Hilux and the Ranger. Original drive-away price for the 2022 Amarok Aventura 5.6, $96,400. Current Red Book trade-in valuation, $41,000. 42.5% retention. A loss of over $55,000 in 4 years. And that figure was calculated before the SkyActiv-Z announcement. The post-announcement repricing has not yet flowed through Red Book's monthly update cycle. When it does in June 2026, the Amarok V6 TDI is forecast by independent wholesale analysts to drop another 6 to 9% in retained value. 3 structural problems compound. First, Volkswagen has publicly committed to no new diesel passenger powertrain development beyond 2027. Second, the Amarok's AdBlue and diesel particulate filter complexity, already a workshop refusal pattern covered in our earlier reports, has no upside in a market that is now openly questioning the entire diesel architecture. Third, the platform sharing arrangement with the Ford Ranger means Volkswagen has no diesel engineering moat. The Amarok was a premium badge over diesel commodity hardware. The commodity is now devalued. If you own a 2022 or 2023 Amarok V6 TDI in Australia today, the offer you receive in 18 months will not resemble the offer the same dealer would have made you in early 2026. Vehicle 2. The BMW X5 xDrive 30D, 3-litre inline-six diesel. The engine BMW spent the last 20 years patching and refining while Mazda was working in silence. Original drive-away price for the 2022 X5 xDrive 30D, $125,500. Current Redbook trade-in valuation, $58,000. 46.2% retention, a loss of nearly $68,000 in 4 years. And here, the SkyActiv-Z announcement does something specific that no other engine announcement in the last decade has done. It exposes BMW's most expensive engineering decision. BMW invested heavily in the diesel inline-six as the heart of its premium SUV strategy. The decision was made in the late 1990s. The platform has been incrementally refined for over 2 decades, and in a single press release from Hiroshima, a smaller competitor has demonstrated that the entire premise underneath BMW's diesel investment was, in retrospect, the wrong bet. The next generation X5 will not have a diesel option in most major markets. BMW Australia has already begun reducing diesel allocations from 2026 forward. Used X5 diesel buyers in 2027 will be buying a powertrain the manufacturer has actively retreated from. The premium brand of the diesel passenger market is no longer premium. It is legacy. Legacy assets in any market trade at discount. Vehicle 3, the Toyota LandCruiser 200 Series 5 DJ, the previous generation, sold in Australia between 2007 and 2022. 4.5-litre 5.8 turbo diesel. The engine that built Toyota's Outback reputation. The engine that, until May 2026, was considered functionally future-proof because nothing existed to replace it. Original drive-away price for the 2021 LandCruiser Sahara VDJ, $146,000. Current Redbook trade-in valuation, $98,000. That is 67% retention. Up to today, the strongest diesel retention figure in the entire Australian market. That figure is now under structural threat for the first time in 20 years. The reason is not that the SkyActiv-Z will replace the V8 LandCruiser engine. Mazda is not producing 4.5-litre V8 turbo diesels. The reason is that Toyota itself, the company that built the 200 series, has now publicly committed to a hybrid-only LandCruiser strategy from the 300 series onward, with confirmed exploration of partnership engines, including the SkyActiv-Z derivative for smaller displacement Toyota models. If Toyota itself signals diesel is no longer the future, the used market reads that as the strongest possible confirmation. The 200 series VDJ retention is forecast to drop from 67% to between 58 and 62% by mid-2027. That is the largest single-year retention decline forecast for any iconic Australian off-road vehicle in the last 2 decades. And it is happening to the vehicle most Australians considered the safest used 4-wheel drive purchase you could make. If you own a diesel-powered vehicle in Australia today, the next 12 months will reprice your asset more aggressively than the previous 5 years combined. This channel publishes a new investigation every week into exactly what is moving in the Australian car market. Industry shifts, brand contractions, workshop refusals, resale collapses, the data the dealers and the manufacturers already have, presented to the Australians who need it before the next trade-in conversation. Subscribe to the Calder Report, tap the bell. Every video could save you tens of thousands of dollars on the vehicle in your driveway. Vehicle 4, the Mercedes-Benz GLE 300D. 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel. Mercedes' mainstream luxury SUV diesel powertrain. Sold across Australia in significant volume between 2019 and 2025. Original drive-away price for the 2022 GLE 300D, $117,000. Current Red Book trade-in valuation, $53,000. 45.3% retention. A loss of over $63,000 in 4 years. The GLE 300D sits at the most exposed point of the entire luxury diesel decline. Mercedes-Benz Australia confirmed in late 2025 that diesel allocations for passenger vehicles would be reduced by over 50% across 2026 and 2027 model years. The GLE 350D variant has already been discontinued for the Australian market entirely. And here is the structural problem the SkyActiv-Z announcement adds on top. Mercedes' diesel investment, like BMW's, is now a stranded asset. The fastest-growing premium powertrain segment globally is no longer diesel. It is electrified hybrid and pure electric. The slowest shrinking premium segment is the SkyActiv-Z style hyper-efficient petrol, which Mercedes does not currently have an answer to. Used GLE 300D buyers in 2027 will be buying into a powertrain category the manufacturer is publicly retreating from, against a market preference that is openly shifting toward two technologies. The GLE 300D represents neither of. That is the worst possible position for a used vehicle to occupy. Vehicle 5, the Mitsubishi Triton MQ and MR generation 2.4-litre MiVec turbo diesel. Original drive-away price for the 2022 Triton GSR, $58,500. Current Red Book trade-in valuation, $28,000. 47.9% retention, a loss of over $30,000 in 4 years. The Triton sits at the most exposed point of the mainstream ute segment in Australia. 3 structural reasons. First, Mitsubishi's diesel 4-cylinder is a small displacement, lightly modified version of the same architecture every other mainstream manufacturer is now actively walking away from. There is no premium engineering moat protecting it from segment-wide diesel decline. Second, Mitsubishi as a brand has publicly committed to a plug-in hybrid first strategy from 2027 onward, including the next-generation Triton. The vehicle that replaces the current Triton will not be diesel. That is now official from the manufacturer itself. Third, and most damaging, the Triton competes directly against newer Chinese plug-in hybrid utes priced at similar or lower drive-away figures. The BYD Shark, the LDV e-tron, and the GWM Cannon Alpha PHEV all offer significantly lower running costs, tax advantages where they still exist, and a value proposition that did not exist when current Triton owners signed finance in 2022 and 2023. A used 2022 Triton diesel in 2027 will be competing for buyers against new Chinese plug-in hybrid utes at near identical price points. That comparison the used Triton cannot win. The discount required to move it is the figure that produces the retention forecast. Vehicle 6, the Audi Q5 TDI, 2-litre turbocharged diesel, Audi's mid-size luxury SUV diesel powertrain, sold in significant Australian volume between 2018 and 2024. Original drive-away price for the 2022 Q5 TDI Quattro, $94,000. Current Red Book trade-in valuation, $41,000, 43.6% retention, a loss of $53,000 in 4 years. Audi sits in an even more uncomfortable position than BMW or Mercedes. Audi has publicly committed to electric-only product launches from 2026 onward, but does not yet have a competitive electric Q5 successor on Australian roads. The Q6 e-tron, which is the official electric replacement strategy, occupies a slightly different segment and price point. The conventional Q5 line is being phased out without a direct one-for-one electric replacement. Used Q5 TDI owners are therefore caught in the worst possible transitional gap. The diesel powertrain they own has been declared obsolete by the manufacturer. The electric replacement they would naturally upgrade to is more expensive and in a different size class. And the conventional petrol Q5 they might trade for is itself on the chopping block. There is, in a meaningful sense, no clean upgrade path Audi is currently offering to its 40 TDI customers. And used buyers, looking at the same problem from the other side, are reluctant to commit to a stranded model line. The trade-in offers reflect that reluctance. The retention figures reflect that reluctance. And the SkyActiv-Z announcement, by removing any residual case for new diesel investment, finishes the picture. Vehicle 7, the Isuzu MU-X, 3-litre turbo diesel, the diesel SUV that has, against all market trends, held value better than almost any other diesel in Australia for the last 5 years. Original drive-away price for the 2022 MU-X LST, $69,500. Current Red Book trade-in valuation, $43,500. 62.6% retention. The strongest retention figure of any diesel SUV on this list. And here is the most painful realization in this entire report. The MU-X's strength is exactly what makes it vulnerable now. The reason the MU-X retains so well is that Isuzu has, for years, been the manufacturer most explicitly committed to the diesel passenger and SUV segment. Other brands hedged, other brands diversified. Isuzu doubled down. That commitment produced the strongest used market confidence of any diesel SUV brand in the country. Now consider what the SkyActiv-Z announcement does to a manufacturer whose entire premium positioning is diesel commitment. Isuzu has no hybrid passenger vehicle, no EV passenger vehicle, no SkyActiv-Z style hyper-efficient petrol. The MU-X retention has been built entirely on the assumption that the diesel architecture itself has long-term resale legitimacy. That assumption is the assumption a Mazda chief engineer just publicly retired. Forecast retention for the MU-X by mid-2027 is projected to drop from 62.6% to between 53 and 56%. That is a single-year decline of 7 to 9 percentage points on a vehicle previously considered one of the safest used purchases in the Australian SUV market. The vehicles that held value best in the old paradigm are now the most exposed to the paradigm shift. Vehicle 8. The Toyota Hilux 2.8G D6 Turbo Diesel. And this is the most important vehicle on this entire list because of what it represents to Australian working life. Original drive-away price for the 2022 Hilux SR5, $63,700. Current Red Book trade-in valuation, $48,000. 75.3% retention, the strongest retention figure of any working ute in modern Australian history. The Hilux has been, for over 20 years, the most reliable retained value vehicle this country has produced. Tradies, regional families, farm operators, fleet managers, every Australian customer segment that relies on a vehicle for income has built financial planning around the assumption that the Hilux holds its value. That assumption survived the global financial crisis. It survived the rise of the Ford Ranger. It survived the Chinese ute invasion. It survived 10 years of diesel emissions debate. It may not survive the SkyActiv-Z. Toyota itself is the partner Mazda has confirmed for capital cooperation on next-generation powertrain technology, including SkyActiv-Z derivatives. The Toyota Industries Memorandum, signed alongside the May 2026 announcement, explicitly references shared powertrain investment. In plain English, Toyota has publicly aligned itself with the technology that just made its own diesel Hilux engine architecturally obsolete. Used Hilux buyers in 2027 and beyond will be reading the same memorandum. They will see Toyota itself signaling that the diesel powertrain in the vehicle they are about to buy is no longer the company's future. And the trade-in offers will reflect that signal. Hilux retention is forecast to drop from 75% to between 65 and 68% by mid-2027. That is the single most consequential resale decline forecast for any vehicle in Australian economic history. Because it is happening to the vehicle the entire working class of this country has trusted as the safest possible automotive purchase. The Hilux will continue to be sold. It will continue to be driven. It will continue to be reliable. But the financial confidence underneath every Hilux purchase decision has, in a single month, structurally shifted. Every vehicle on this list shares one thing. They were bought on the assumption that diesel was permanent. That assumption was reasonable when the buyers signed finance. Diesel had survived every regulatory threat for 2 decades. The European emissions debate had not crossed the Pacific. The hybrid alternative was a compromise. The electric alternative was still niche. Then, a smaller manufacturer most Australians had never seriously considered, working in silence in Hiroshima for 13 years, produced an engine that does what diesel did better than diesel did it, in a powertrain that costs less to maintain, weighs less to carry, and faces no regulatory headwind. The buyers did not see it coming. The dealers did not see it coming. Most journalists did not see it coming. And the people who already own diesel vehicles are now, again, the last people in the chain to find out what that means for the asset in their driveway. Here is what every Australian diesel vehicle owner should do this week. Pull a Red Book trade-in valuation today. Write the number down. Wait 60 days. Pull the same valuation again. If the gap between those two numbers exceeds 3% of the vehicle's value, you are watching the post-SkyActiv-Z repricing happen to your asset in real time. That gap will continue to widen across 2026 and 2027 as every manufacturer publishes its updated diesel roadmap and every wholesale auction publishes its monthly results. If your vehicle is on this list, the question is not whether to sell. The question is whether to sell now, in the early phase of the decline, or wait and accept the deeper loss. The benchmark, the same one we use in every report on this channel, is the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. 81 to 84% retained at 3 years. Self-charging hybrid. Toyota's flagship architecture in the segment most buyers are migrating toward. And the powertrain Toyota itself has committed to expand, not retreat from, in its post-2026 strategy. The brands that protect your investment are the ones moving toward the architectures the market actually wants. With diesel now publicly declared obsolete by the very engineers responsible for the technology that replaced it, that list is shorter, clearer, and more urgent than at any point in modern Australian motoring. Subscribe to the Calder Report. Tap the bell. Every week, we show you exactly what is moving in the Australian car market before it moves past you.